Have you ever wondered what the perfect power system is? With so many incredible animes out there, have you ever wondered what the perfect, most versatile power system of them all are? Well, I'm here to suggest to you that JJK's power system might be the most versatile, powerful, and creative form of energy throughout all of anime. Yes, I am talking about cursed energy. Today, we as a community are going to dive into JJK's power system to answer questions like, what is cursed energy? How can it be used, and how is it created? But before we get into that, guys, if you could just do me the favor of liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the noti bell, that would mean the world to me. I appreciate you guys, and without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss what is cursed energy. Cursed energy is the power system used in JJK, and it's basically negative emotion. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that cursed energy is basically just negative energy created through negative emotions that one takes on throughout their life, such as grief or anger. Of course, this means that people who have experienced more negative emotions or negative experiences throughout life will have access to more cursed energy than those who have had more positive emotions or positive experiences throughout life. This is also why cursed spirits will tend to gather around hospitals, schools, or prisons. This is also why cursed spirits will also vary in strength and power. You see, a cursed spirit is an entity that is created through cursed energy being leaked into the world from a non-jujutsu sorcerer. See, this is why the disaster curses are so powerful, because the larger group of people that feel negative emotions towards something, such as a natural disaster, the stronger that entity is going to become. Because that's all cursed spirits are entities created through the negative emotions that the public leaks out. This is why the disaster curses are as powerful as they are, and why a curse like Jogo was able to make quick work of Nanami and the other jujutsu sorcerers that were present during the Shibuya incident. So a good rule of thumb is basically saying if it's a commonly well-known thing that has hatred towards it, then you could assume that's a powerful curse. Okay, so now that we talked about cursed energy and cursed spirits, let's talk about the sorcerers that use this cursed energy. With all that being said, you're probably wondering to yourself, but Hen, don't jujutsu sorcerers use cursed energy to fight? If you're saying that cursed energy is negative emotions and negative energy, doesn't that mean they're always like pissed off or sad, depressed, all that jazz? And I'm like, yeah, they are. Have you seen the Shibuya incident? Like, wouldn't you be? Have you seen Yuji at the end? Did you hear the music that they were playing? But on a serious note, they are using negative emotions. It's just that they're trained. They're going to JJK High or they're going to Kyoto High, and they're training to be able to use their negative emotions in a way where they're not leaking cursed energy. So that's a good point actually right there, is that cursed energy isn't leaked out of cursed users or jujutsu sorcerers. They're able to actually control it and use it in different types of way, mainly in combat or support roles. Since jujutsu sorcerers never create cursed spirits, the only time that they actually can create a cursed spirit is if they become the cursed spirit due to having themselves be unalived by something that's not a cursed object, cursed tool, or just imbued with cursed energy overall. So go back to the hidden inventory arc, and it's kind of how Riko Amanai was killed by a bullet. Side note, this is also why fans theorized that Riko Amanai was reincarnated as Dagon, one of the disaster curses. I feel more in my element, low-key. Feel like I hit a black flash, low-key. Since sorcerers aren't allowing their cursed energy to just flow throughout their body into the world and just leave their body, how are they using it? Skillful jujutsu sorcerers are actually able to manipulate their own cursed energy. So in combat, when they throw a punch or throw a kick, they're able to imbue that punch or kick with more cursed energy output, so that it basically lands harder. On the defensive side of things, they're also able to reinforce their body with cursed energy. So in case they're about to take a hit, then they're able to up their defense a bit so it doesn't hurt as bad or it doesn't take off a limb or anything. So for a quick example of this, right? Imagine you're blocking, right? I'm coming in with a nice right hand. You know, I'm charged up, ready to go. You're blocking that right with just a little X, right? And you're reinforcing yourself with cursed energy. Now you have more cursed energy output than I do, right? So with me coming in with this right, unless I hit a black flash that we'll go into a little bit later on, unless I'm hitting a black flash, which is more than likely not going to occur, chances are you're going to stop my punch and I'm going to look at you like, Nani? And then you're going to just be able to counter. Now, on the other side of things, if my curse punch had a lot more energy in it than your defense had, I'm going to break through your defense. Now, say you're not the most physically gifted in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, and say you need a little bit of assistance, right? Well, if you don't have these, you could always use weapons, such as cursed tools, right? So a cursed tool is an object that is more than likely a weapon. Say it's a katana, for example. You imbue that katana with cursed energy over time so that it's able to become stronger, and over time, it could develop the same grade as you. Now, this doesn't mean that every single katana you pick up is going to become a grade 1 katana, right? It takes a lot of time in order for that katana to have as much curse energy as it needs to level up. The reason for it is because if you try to imbue a cursed tool with too much curse energy right from the jump, 9 out of 10 times you're going to destroy the cursed tool. What happens if you're just not a gifted fighter? What happens if you aren't gifted at throwing hands and you're not the greatest skilled sorcerer with a katana or any type of cursed tool, right? Well, my friend, imagine us being support roles, right? Me and you, we're out there, we're scouting, we're looking at everyone, and we're just observing the scenery, and we're just thinking to ourselves, they're strong. I have info on them. I need to get this back to somebody who could actually handle them. It's not me. I need to make sure I don't get caught and unalived by this individual. Well, we have cursed energy, my friend. And even though we're trained in order for the cursed energy not to flow out of our body needlessly, we still leave residuals. What a residual is imagine you're walking on the trail, right? And it rained the day before. And you're walking and you look back and there's your footprints because it's kind of muddy, right? And you're thinking to yourself, pretty easy for somebody to track me if they really wanted to because my footprints are right there. Well, that's basically what residuals are. Residuals don't always have to be footprints. However, more times than not, it's going to be in the shape of your footprint on the ground wherever you were. Now, truly skilled Jujutsu sorcerer is able to identify who left these footprints and how long they have been there. So, you and I as support characters are going to be looking back at our residuals. We're going to erase them the same way anybody else would erase normal tracks. We're going to make sure they're just not there anymore. All right, so we covered a couple key things. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this video. We're going to talk about our curse technique. If you are blessed with a curse technique, well, my friend, more likely than not, we are not support characters anymore. We are on the front lines. Curse techniques can fall into 2 different camps. You can be born with an innate technique, or you could be born with an inherited technique. An innate technique, just like an inherited technique, has pros and cons. So, in an innate technique, we're thinking, wow, we're just born, gifted, look at us, we're doing great things. However, I don't know what to do with this, right? Think of us being Toto and having the ability to clap and switch places with somebody else as long as they have cursed energy or any object that has cursed energy. That's awesome. However, we don't have a blueprint on how to use that technique. Somebody like Megami, who has 10 shadows and 10 shadows has been used and passed along, is known as an inherited technique. He has a blueprint and he's able to use that blueprint in order to master his technique a lot faster than we are able to master ours. Because let's be honest, we're not born with that 100,000 IQ that Toto has. However, neither is our opponent. And our innate technique is one of a kind, meaning they don't have a blueprint on how to beat us. So we have that pro and con right there where pro of an innate technique is nobody knows really how to use it. Con, we don't really know how to use it. We just got to really train up and get there. Inherited technique, pro, blueprint. We have right there in front of us the guide on how to make this thing happen. Think about Ned's Declassified School Survivor Guide. He lets you know how to survive through high school. You don't have to do anything but follow his guide. You're going to pass. Downside, everyone can get that guide or figure out that guide or just find somebody with experience because elders are everywhere and they talk, and you're going to be able to find out exactly how to beat that technique. Also, a small little caveat to the curse techniques is that some curse techniques, and it's rarely been seen before, but some curse techniques have what's known as an attribute or a trait. In these circumstances, we only know of 2 people who have this, and that's Hikari and Kashimo. Kashimo, electricity. All his techniques are based around electricity. It's kind of like a natural thing that he was gifted with. And Hikari, he has kind of like a edge, or like a, how do I put it, but sandpaper like energy to his cursed energy. So when he hits you, it kind of feels like you got brush burn. Kashimo hits you, it's like you just got zapped. So nobody's gonna like that. So even if you really block it, you're still gonna get hit with electricity. So it's better just to dodge those types of techniques. But the more you know. All right, so since we covered cursed energy and what it is and how it can be used, and we covered a little bit about cursed techniques in a nutshell, how can we buff these effects? Because it's anime, it's a shonen anime. We love buffing, we love making things stronger than they already are. So how can we do that, right? Lucky for you guys, I know of 3 separate ways that you can buff yourself in JJK in order to be stronger. Binding vows, chants, and revealing your technique. So let's start with binding vows, because honestly, it's the longest one. It's going to be the most complicated. See, a binding vow is a pact. Now, this pact can be created between yourself, and that's it. Or you can make this pact with someone else and yourself. Now, the level of discipline, in a sense, between this pact differs between who you make it with. So, say I'm making a pact with myself where I want power. Well, if I'm putting a restriction on me saying that I'm in combat and I need my curse technique to be stronger, I will only attack using my left hand for the rest of this battle. Well, as long as I do that, I will get a little bit of a power boost. Power boost is probably not going to be that great. However, it still will be a power boost nonetheless. But if I break this binding vow where I use my right hand during combat at any point, I'm going to just lose the power boost. Now, since taking a restriction makes your technique stronger, the greatest restriction you could take is by putting your own life on the line. In this scenario, instead of just saying that I'm going to fight with my left hand to make my curse technique stronger, I can say, in the next 30 seconds, if I cannot defeat this opponent, then I am no longer going to be amongst the living. In that scenario, my increase to my stats are going to be tremendous compared to if I was just using my left hand in combat. However, of course, if I don't make it off and I don't complete this task in 30 seconds or so, then my life is forfeit. However, the payoff is tremendous. So in the right circumstance, it could really pay off for you. All right, now that you know how binding vow works for just you and yourself and I, let's talk about your binding vow with someone else. See, like I said before, a binding vow with someone else does not work the same as just with yourself. A binding vow with someone else is usually for a mutual agreement. Now, you can completely ask for that mutual agreement is for them to lend you power, and so you have a power up for some amount of odd time, and whatever they gain from it, they gain from it, but maybe you both have a mutual enemy. Who knows, right? So you definitely could use it in the same regards as just making a vow for yourself. However, it doesn't really make sense because you don't lose that much if you just make a binding vow with yourself. You might just lose your power boost. But if you make a binding vow with someone else and you break that vow, well, it's never mentioned what the circumstances will be on what happens to you specifically. However, it's always noted to be way worse when you make a binding vow with someone else and you break that. Season 2 of JJK, where Mekamaru and Mahito had a binding vow with each other, where he would spy on the Jujutsu sorcerers, and Mahito will bring him to, in a sense, back to life, since he was basically living a cruel, miserable life, as his body was just not usable. He kind of reminds me of the guy from SpongeBob with like the glass bones and like the paper skin. So anyways, Pseudo Ghetto brings up the point to Mahito where if he breaks his binding vow, and he was kind of pissed about it, but if he breaks his binding vow with Mekamaru, then we don't know what's going to happen to you, but you're probably not going to be with us anymore. So best to bring him back and then, you know, unalive him at that point. Another example of this is actually one that we haven't seen pull off yet, but you guys remember season 1 when Sukuna makes a binding vow with Yuji on bringing them both back to life if Yuji agrees to letting Sukuna take over for 1 minute whenever he says the phrase unchained. So if you don't remember, basically Yuji was unalived by Sukuna because Sukuna ripped out his heart, fought Megami for a little bit. Megami got his, you know, shit rocked, and Sukuna is basically like, oh, the brat's not going to come back, he's not going to switch because his heart's not in his chest anymore and I'm not going to bring it back. And then Megami says, oh, you're wrong, basically, blah blah blah. Yuji comes back, they die, they're in his innate domain. we're not going to talk about Innate domain so much in this video, but we'll make a separate video for that. They're basically in Sukuna's Innate domain. Sukuna brings up the point where he could bring him back to life. Yuji's like, bring me back with no conditions. Sukuna offers him a fight. They fight. Not really a fight. Yuji gets slaughtered. Sukuna brings him back. We don't see Sukuna basically use the phrase unchained at all so far in the anime. It does happen in the manga. We'll get to that point when we get to that point. But basically, yeah, that's a binding vow right there where Sukuna made the condition where if he harms or kills anyone in that 1 minute time span that he took over for from Yuji, then anything can happen to him. So that's his risk that he's taking. And Yuji's basically payoff, his like immediate satisfaction, was that he came back to life. All right, so that's binding vows in a nutshell. So let's move on to chants, shall we? Another method in buffing yourself is to have a technique that needs a chant. So a technique that needs a chant is very rare in the JJK community so far. We've actually only seen 2 people who have chants. We've seen Gojo and Sukuna. So Gojo's technique is Hollow Purple that requires a chant. So Hollow Purple is basically a one-shot, and Sukuna, if you're keeping up with the manga, you can see that Sukuna's new technique is a one-shot as well. And ladies and gentlemen, the last way you can buff your technique is by revealing your technique. It is that simple. Say Mahito, for example. Mahito's technique is Idol Transfiguration. If he touches you, he can transfigure your soul to look any type of way that he wants. So that being said, if he's your opponent and he tells you that, if he gets a hand on you, he can basically one-hit KO you. His technique just got amplified, and your best bet is to not allow him to touch you. Now, the drawback to this, obviously, is that he now has revealed his one condition. However, it's on you to stop him from winning, basically. That's the whole point of revealing your technique, is to have that inherent risk of your opponent now knowing what it is that you do and how to stop it. Alright guys, we talked a whole lot about offenses, but we didn't really touch about any defenses whatsoever. So with that being said, let's talk about the best method that you can use your cursed energy in order to heal yourself. It's called Reverse Curse Technique. So I've talked a lot about how cursed energy is negative energy and negative emotions to create that cursed energy. Well, if you multiply that cursed energy times itself, you can create what's known as positive energy. And any positive energy heals and destroys curses. So Reverse Curse Technique is extremely impressive and also extremely difficult to pull off. We've only seen very few Jujutsu sorcerers pull this off, and majority of them have been special grade either curses or special grade users. That's everything. That's everything that has to do with JJK's cursed energy and power system in a nutshell. I didn't talk about Black Flash, and I didn't talk about innate domains and domain expansions. I know I plan to make a separate video for both of those topics in the future. If you guys like this video, then I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. If you could just leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you really like my content and you want to see more of it, and feel free to hit that noti bell, because I hope to be able to post 3 times a week and to see you guys out there. So thanks, and see you on the next video.